Okay, so our next important leader's name was Anne Hutchinson. And as you might guess, if you've already watched the video, or maybe you could just guess, that Anne Hutchinson also lived in Massachusetts Bay Colony, and Anne Hutchinson also was kicked out of Massachusetts Bay Colony. So you get the impression that the Puritans who lived in Massachusetts Bay and controlled it were, although they came here to America to find religious freedom, they weren't really known for giving out religious freedom or tolerance to different beliefs. And so this is Anne Hutchinson. She lived in Massachusetts Bay Colony. You'll notice she's a woman. That kind of makes her story even more impressive, or even more different than what you would expect in the 1600s. So here's the deal with Anne Hutchinson. Anne was a member of the Puritans, and the Puritans, like most other people of the 1600s, believed that men and women were not equal, that women's roles were only in the house, and that they were like under the leadership and the control of their husbands. They didn't have a vote in in anything in the society, and basically their opinions were really just to be kept to themselves. And so it was really a different time when really only men controlled things. In fact, really specifically, only wealthy white men really are the only ones who had a say in anything. So Anne Hutchinson really sticks out because not only was she, we'll say rebellious, although I don't know if she was really rebellious, but she was definitely outspoken, and she was definitely passionate about what she believed, and she didn't have too many issues with expressing it and voicing her opinion. And so you'll see in Massachusetts Bay Colony, anyway, that got her in trouble. One of the things, like if you saw the video just in the previous slide, you'll have seen something about this. But one of the big things that she had an issue with is that in her particular religion, you basically an individual person could only really communicate with God or have kind of a connection with God if they went through their priest or their minister. And she started to believe that God could reveal himself to individual people on a one to one basis, that you didn't need somebody like a priest, that each individual person could have an individual relationship with God. And that idea at the time was not tolerated. And some of you who are listening might think, well, that actually Anne believes something similar to what you believe. And that's because in Christianity today, in many of the Christian churches in America, her belief about individual relationships with God is a common belief nowadays, but in that particular colony, it was not a accepted or tolerated idea, and so that put her in a really tight spot. And then on top of it, she just questioned in general the authority of the leaders. Like why do these people get to be in charge? Who actually says that these are the best leaders? And as a woman, for her to be what they would have called out of place, speaking out of place, speaking out of turn, it would be almost scandalous for a woman to voice her opinion, and especially if her opinion was that the men who are leaders shouldn't be leaders, or that the men whose religious ideas are being taught are not good ideas. And so she was taken to court, and if you can if you can figure out if you thought this was fair, but she was taken to court, and the people on the jury were all men who were ministers in the religion. So she really had no chance of any kind of justice or fairness, really. So they voted to kick her out. They found her guilty of speaking lies, which I don't know if that's really a crime today, but back then she was found guilty of speaking lies and kicked out of Massachusetts Bay. And this was just after Roger Williams had left and set up Rhode Island, and he encouraged her. So she brought a group of followers to Rhode Island and set up a second settlement, a second village in Rhode Island. And so she is not a founder of Rhode Island, but one of the first settlers, one of the first leaders to join